Hey guys, welcome back to Pilot VlogBook. My name's Jason and I'm glad to see you here. If this is your first time, thanks for checking it out. These videos are to serve as vlogs of my entries in my logbook. And if you've been following along, this is sort of like going to be treated as lesson one. It was actually another Groupon that I got a great deal on, but the instructor and I are treating this as kind of like lesson one, day one type deal. So this flight was in a little bit of a hurry. I probably had to wait 40 minutes for the instructor. He actually was delayed getting fuel at another airport, and then apparently there was an aircraft that pulled up to a hold short, and then had some type of IFR plan issue or something like that, and so he was quite late. So we were kind of in a hurry, but he wanted to guarantee my full time, but he had a booking after me. So the lesson maybe was not conducted fully as a first lesson, but we'll call it lesson one. So anyway, this time, last time he just brought the plane around. This time we actually drove on the airfield and got the airplane out of the T hangar. He, had already pre-flighted the plane, and we just kind of did a quick pre-flight together, just to establish some rhythm there and go through the procedures. We pulled the plane out and went over what we were going to do and some safety information, and he ended up taxiing us out just because we were in a little bit more of a hurry this time. And before you know it, we're taking off. I assisted on takeoff and climbing up to 3,000 feet. Still like a very strange thing to get used to when you're in that climb. Just the total, I shouldn't say total, but the significant loss in visibility, just from operating other vehicles and equipment and machinery. To just lose such a significant visual is hard to get used to, but then that's where you're falling on your instruments to see what the aircraft is doing, which is obviously very important. It's just all so new. But anyway, we got up to altitude, and then we did some clearing turns. He conducted the clearing turns. And last time we had done a little bit of, bank angle discussion. This time we went over 45-degree bank angle turns, and he demonstrated left, then right, while maintaining 3,000 foot altitude. And then it was my turn to try that. And it really came in to play, staying coordinated in turns, which is all new to me. I think I pretty much went through 90% of the exercise uncoordinated, not really knowing better until the end, really what I was even doing. The first turn to the left, I probably only got to like 20 or 25 degrees and did this real, broad swooping turn. I think I lost probably 300 foot of altitude. I'm just overload. Everything's new. I'm watching this instrument. I'm looking outside. I'm looking how uncoordinated I am. I'm trying to hit a bank angle. Oh, I just dropped all this altitude. I'm focused on that. He's talking the whole time. And, you know, before you know it, it's a disaster. um, Go ahead and repeat to the right. That time I did actually hold a 45 degree, at least in the beginning, and then I held my altitude probably within 100 or 200 feet. I think at one point I gained a little bit, another point I had lost a little bit, and then probably about 70% of the way through the turn, I noticed that I had noticed it, but I look at the instruments and was probably at like a 20% bank angle. So there's a lot of different coordination, figuratively and literally going on there. Yeah, so the pattern around the airport was like dense. I mean, there was, like he even said, an abnormal amount of traffic, particularly for that type of day. And so, you know, we had a limited time slots. So to go to one of the nearby airports, just the travel time there and back would eat up half of the time we had. So that's why we were kind of on the fly, deciding to just do some different maneuvering type things, and with the plan that once the pattern calmed down once it calmed down, we would be towards the end of doing all of that, and then we would practice some touch and goes. And so the touch and goes were good to get some of that experience. He controlled flaps and the throttle, and really was in charge of the descent. I was just really focused on the lineup and trying to flare the aircraft and that part of the landing. The first one was pretty decent. I felt completely out of control and but actually, as far as the actual touchdown was concerned, it was pretty decent. I contacted the left main gear first, and then kind of rolled and settled into the right, and brought the nose down. Then immediately back on the throttle, and for takeoff. One thing I didn't do is I didn't just go full power. I just kept easing it and easing it and easing it. I'm not sure why I had the tendency to do that. I think it was more just trying to be smooth on the controls instead of just that acceleration. I actually carried out that same mistake on the other two landings. But it was good. Got to run through the pattern, and I have a hard time judging my 90-degree turns. I want to have a tendency to reference the ground for my 90 degrees. Between that and my bank angle and all of that, I'm making these, turns that are too much on the inside, too broad, sweeping outside. But of course, there's really no expectations at this point. Everything is so new, but it was really neat. Just running through the pattern and experiencing some of the things that I've been reading about and watching videos from other creators. And the second landing was a little bit better, a little bit more even than the first one. And then the third landing was, I think, better yet than the other two. It was definitely more controlled. But again, he's putting in, his inputs into the controls here and there to correct actions or to take actions I wasn't taking. It's a little hard to even get a feel for what I'm doing sometimes versus what he's doing. Hopefully that will come with time and just gaining, some physical feedback from the plane, as well as verbal feedback from him as I build up those skills. Yeah, it was a really great experience and built off of the first time out. I got back to the office and I'm actually signed up for the rest of the month. I have 4 flights booked, and the next flight, the plane, so we were in a 172 for the second time now. This one was actually a different one. The first one had it had a G1000 set up in it. This one had, I believe, a G5, Garmin G5 setup in it. So, same plane, but, feels totally different. I think a lot of my issue is just, looking at 6-pack gauges. I'm looking at, the digital representation of various instruments, which are now different from the last time. And then to complicate it even further, I'm going to be doing my lessons coming up in a 152, just purely to save money. So it's $154 an hour wet for the 172, and the 152 is 100 wet, which, depending on how many hours you end up taking to get through your course, could without hesitation save you $2,000 without even thinking about it. That's probably more towards the lower end of savings that you can expect there. So I'm going that route. I was concerned about the 152 with the size. I'm 6 foot, and I wasn't sure how tight we would be shoulder to shoulder. So he was really cool. He was actually, excited to show me the 152. Didn't have any reservations for going that route, and actually said it was a great idea to save money. So it's really that, that's something that I'm really liking too, is that my CFI is there for me and he's there for him. He's not there as, he's not really drumming up business. He's not focused on that. He's focused on my enjoyment and my experience and my learning environment. And, that's most important. So he actually took the time. You have to remember, I only paid for an hour of flight time with a Groupon that was 60 or 70% off. So this is now all time, his personal time that he's spending. But he actually took me to the hangar where the 152 was. It's dark outside at this point, and the T hangars don't have power, no lights, nothing. And we're in there with flashlights looking around, but he showed me the 152. We both sat in it side by side. A lot of it's very much the same, except there is no digital instrument panel equipment whatsoever, no digital avionics. It does have a Garmin GPS, kind of up on, I guess, the console, you would call it, on top of the instrument panel. Looks just like a marine unit that you would have on a boat or something, and seems to function at least at its core, very similarly. So that's, again, another difference. Unfortunately, I won't be able to start my official lessons in that plane because it was actually booked up. I think for someone that's doing a check ride that's trained on it like the entire time, which is all irrelevant anyway. It's it was last second to book it anyway. So my next lesson will actually be in a 172 again, which is probably good anyway, since that's the experience that I've had so far, and that'll be a true lesson, booked out for 3 hours, trying to hit like the 1.5 hour airtime mark. So it'll be the most flying time that I've had, and it'll be the most like direct instructional time that I've had so far. A lot of this, this time and the previous time was just, information and the instructor really doing more demo and then here you try kind of thing. So I'm excited to have like a real lesson this upcoming time. And then the following one will be in the 152. It's a 1980 model, and it's pretty rough actually. But it is 42 years old. So it's a 42-year-old trainer. So it's seen some stuff for sure. But it's really going to help save a lot of money. And as I mentioned in the introduction to the channel, is, do your research, and please, any questions, comment below. I'd love to help you out. But, so many of the schools in my area, the rates, you need to pay attention to what the rate is actually based on. Is the instructor paid independently? Is he like an independent contractor, gets paid through the school? They usually pad his rate, right? Even though he's a contractor, they're still, they may not have any type of like health or other benefits that they're having to provide for him as being like an independent contractor, but they're still padding his rate. There was actually some schools in the area that had a little bit cheaper instructor rate, and that was only because the individual instructors were dictating that rate, or the school was putting a max on their rate that they could charge, and not putting anything on top of it, and they were solely independent. So then the school, if you were doing like a 141 ground school in person there, they're making their money there. But a lot of these facilities are operating as more as like rental companies more than anything else. So they're like hubs for CFIs to work with, provide the planes, provide some services, the office for instruction and debriefing, even in a 61 setting. But predominantly they're operating as, an aircraft rental company, and that is where the majority of their income comes from, aside from ground school, if they even are offering in-person ground school. That's another weird thing. A lot of these CFIs, I didn't really realize this, a lot of them have their own ground school, and some of them teach that there, and some of them teach that off-site, and some of it's kind of like a remote learning ground school. It's really, you've got to find out, you have to ask yourself, what's going to best fit for you? 61, 141, what's better for your budget? What's better for your work life, school balance? I personally am doing an online ground school. I did a very thorough amount of research on different online ground schools. There's a lot out there. I went through Sporties, and I actually made the decision. This other company did this real elaborate comparison about all the features of all the various schools, and it was really at the end supposed to be a way of like, oh, well, they did all this, and our school does all this, and all that additional extra was basically just pointless. I mean, some of it was nice, but they actually were cheaper than the one that I went with, but it was a smaller, less known, still able to give you the certificate of completion afterwards, but I think it was like $40 or $50, which in this setting is like a drop in a bucket for what you're going to spend. So I ended up going with Sporties, mostly because of what they offered, the access to things. They have some test prep in there, but it was, at the end of the day, it was really the videos. The videos are not real modern, but they're not crazy outdated. Like the King School's videos have got to be shot like in the 90s or something. And I didn't really care for the dry and weird. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I didn't really care for that. The Sporties instruction, some of the videos I watched. I encourage you to go check out their YouTube channel. They have some free content on there, and you can kind of gauge like what some of their content is going to be like in the course, the paid course. And it turns out that my CFI did Sporties as well, and one of the other CFIs that was standing there as I was booking some classes, he did Sporties as well. And they both had good things to say. It was all kind of coincidental. So I felt good that I had made a good decision with that. The self-study is really about you more than anything else. It seems like the online ground school is going to give you a chunk of information in a certain way, and I think that it's going to need to be supplemented with the various well-known books, such as this just came in the mail. This was actually the interruption from my last video when I had a delivery. So this came. This is available. You can get older versions, PDFs. You can get ebook versions. When it comes to knowledge that is this dense, I like having something physical. I originally was the Aeronautical Handbook. I had that as PDF. I think it was the 2016 version. I'm waiting for the newer one to come in the mail. I think it comes tomorrow, actually. I originally was going to go about it through a PDF editor and highlight and mark it up in there. And I really wish that I'd be able to make that happen realistically, but it's not going to be easy for me to study that way. It just seems cumbersome to manipulate it. I mark up PDFs a fair amount for work, for as-built and different things. But it just seems cumbersome. And I stare at a screen for so long, and I've had enough. The other issue with that is if I'm looking at it on my desktop, my laptop, if I have a tablet, then it was like I was trying to find a PDF editor that is consistent throughout, that I don't have to pay for, where the markups weren't going to be, they were going to be embedded in the PDF and not some kind of like weird proprietary thing that different editors were kind of using. I don't know. It just was becoming too cumbersome. So everyone learns differently is what I'm trying to get at. So I would use your online ground school as an outline with a good portion of the information. And if they have like little as you go quizzes, that's helpful. But what I've been doing is on Sporties, I actually go on there and they had the transcript. And I put I copied the transcript out to a Microsoft Word document. Then I watched the video. Then as I'm going through the video, I pause the video and I highlight things that are either going to be like facts that are hard to remember to go back, or little tips and pointers that are easy to remember but just to go back and refresh, or I'll highlight subject matter that I know I'm going to need to go back, rewatch the video, probably hit some of the textbooks and manuals, and reinforce that because maybe the video didn't give me enough, or it was the surface of the information. I want more foundation, or maybe it didn't have enough detail, what have you. I also go in there and I add notes, and I add additional comments to what they said. The transcript is what the instructor is actually saying. However, they'll flash content on the screen that has verbiage on there supporting what they're talking about, and that isn't in the transcript. The transcript is literally just a word for word transcript of what's being said. So whatever they post up in the video as additional supporting documentation, and that's another thing too, is I'll pause the video, and if they reference a source, I'll link to it, or I'll grab some info out of that source, or at least just type in there, hey, see this later, or whatever. So I'm really using their content as an outline to then supplement with like the real hardcore manuals and all. And also I'm using it as kind of like a study guide, the transcript, to know my areas of weakness and everything else. So that's how I'm going about it. I wouldn't get hung up tremendously on which one. Just make sure you get one that's going to give you a certificate of completion, however they pump that out. What you really, I think it was valuable to me, want to look for is something that's going to be a instant certification, or whatever, where, hey, once you pass that point on there where they're able to legally provide that certificate, you don't want to be waiting in the mail for them to mail that thing. While all that information's fresh, you want to be continuously supporting it, doing some practice tests, and then going and actually taking the written. At the time of this video, I'm like right around 50% done with the Sporties coursework. And I think that's really important. I'm not saying you have to get the ground school done first. You don't even have to do it at all, really. But I want to maximize my time with the instructor and the time in the plane. From a financial standpoint, I don't want to be wasting my time. I'm not wasting his time because he's getting paid. But I don't want to be wasting my time, and I also don't want to be limiting my experience. I want to know, for the most part, why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like a coordinated turn. I don't want to hear him say what a coordinated turn is, and then be trying to practice something that I don't even know really what I'm doing, and especially not why I'm doing it. It's hard to estimate. I would say I'm probably 2 to 3 weeks ahead now in my ground school, and I really wanted to hit that hard now while I have the opportunity, in case work slows things down, or I decide to try to fly 3 times a week. I don't want to be stressed and overloaded trying to keep up with the. All right, so unfortunately, either my camera overheated or there was some type of file corruption, and it just stopped recording. And I guess that's okay, because I think the video was getting a little long-winded anyway. And I appreciate your feedback on that, actually. If you want to comment down below, what you think about the segment length. You know, sometimes I enjoy a more in-depth, longer format video. If I'm getting the logbook entry portion knocked out in the first 10-15 minutes, let me know if you think that's good, and then having like additional stuff at the end, or would you rather that additional stuff, like where I started talking about ground school and studying and all, just be an entirely separate video? I certainly welcome your feedback. You're the viewer, and I want to try to make content that best appeals to you. So let me know what you think. And I think I'm just going to wrap up this video. And I just want to say that I appreciate you watching. I'm excited about this new life experience and getting into aviation, and I hope you are too. And I hope you're enjoying the videos, and I plan on keep making them and keep flying. And I hope you have a lot of fun as I am. I know I'm really enjoying this. So if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. Again, comment down below about the lesson I had, about the video format, what you'd like to see, talk about. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them and try to help you guys out. And if you're liking the content so far, if you wouldn't mind subscribing and hit that bell icon. Right now, I'm looking to fly at least 2 days a week. I'm at least scheduled 2 days a week, and, you know, weather permitting. So I'm going to try to be putting out 2 videos a week at this time, and then maybe even supplementing in some more content in there as well, you know, maybe like about the ground school or different topics that I'm coming across that I think need some more discussion, or maybe I'll just share what I've learned about, you know, whether it's weather or, you know, navigation or rules or standards or what have you, and just make separate videos specifically for that content so we can kind of isolate. So let me know what you guys think, and I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video coming very soon. So you guys have a good one. Thank you.